Hey guys, welcome to Hope It Helps. And my guest on the show today is Mr. Jason Lebowitz. Jason, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. How's your energy today?
Energy's pretty good, man. Just had, like I told you, just had some food. It's good. It's been a good day so far. How's yours going?
I'm feeling energized right now, so I appreciate you having me on. I'm looking forward to this.
Thank you so much for your time, man. And I really appreciate it. Super excited to have you on the show. So, Jason, me and you, like all my guests, have connected through LinkedIn. And I took a look at the work you do, and I thought it was really, really interesting because it was I guess a new take on model that that has come to be the norm. So, guys, just a little bit of background. Jason is the founder of XXO.com, and it's a community that focuses on personal development, wellness, health, love, intimacy, and relationships. And the way they describe it is all the good stuff, convenient. Sorry, I want to get this right. Con- connection over convenience without the swiping, which is which is nice. So I thought it'd be great to talk to you, man. I love the vision behind it, and just to understand, your views on dating. How did we get here? Where did we start? And what your experience has been with building the company. But before we get into everything, Jason, why don't you give all of us a little bit of background about yourself, and we'll take it from there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate you inviting me on. I'm Jason. I'm the founder. It's XXO. The website's xxoconnect.com. I think xxo.com might lead you somewhere else. So be careful of the variations of those. Um, yeah, I'm from the United States. I'm in Connecticut. We connected through LinkedIn, which I love. Everybody looks at LinkedIn as a business platform, which secondary it is. First and foremost, it's a human connection platform. And so just like right now in real time, Khalid and I have never met. We've actually never spoken. We've had like an email or two back and forth.
Yep.
And that's what I love is just getting so far away from the distraction, so far away from the noise, where we can dive in. To me, this is true intimacy, having a real conversation, getting to know each other in real time. And this is what it's all about. This is everything that I stand for is human connection, accelerating human connection, restoring connection to humanity. So here we are, and I'm really excited to share in this with you.
Awesome, man. And I really like what you said about that the intimacy aspect, which is what like these kind of like the platform and like the world of podcasting allows. I know you have a podcast as well, and I listened to a few episodes of that too. So it really gives you the space, number one, and it's not, I'm not trying to sell you, you're not trying to sell me. We're just trying to sit down and have a real conversation about a specific topic. And I think that's where all the juicy stuff typically comes out anyway. At least that's been my experience. What would you say?
100%. The reason why I started the XXO podcast originally was because of it actually came from my dating experiences when you're dating, you go out on your first date, it's one on one, you're having a intimate conversation, you're trying to have that moment and getting to know each other. And at the time, I was almost in I never actually knew what a podcast was at the time, but I was looking back, I was in podcast mode. I was trying to get to know them. And a lot of times, we're not always in the same place. And I know that now, but at the time, trying for people to open up and creating that environment for people to actually get to know each other for who they are and not just this outside exterior, the highlight reel of what we want to show. And so my idea of a podcast, and just like you, is actually having those moments of, and it doesn't matter of gender or anything else. It's just the environment of getting to know each other, getting away and seeing if you can create this environment where you can start to open up with each other. And when you can, that's the magic. That is human connection. And so for me, that's the reason why I started my podcast. And I love doing these is because, it is that intimate environment.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. And I really resonate with that too. Interesting that you said that you looked at it in the similar kind of, you look at the podcast in a similar way to as that first date, is just you and a person that you've never met, just like us here right now, and you're
Yeah.
trying to connect with each other. You're trying to, show who you are, and you're trying to develop some type of chemistry, and connection. So on that point, I guess, where did what give us the story behind XXO? Why did you decide to create this platform? Because it sounds like connection has it always been a big part of your life, or were there certain experiences that you went through that you've realized the, I guess, importance of it?
It's always easier looking back and seeing that over time, what I was doing, all these different jobs and careers I was in, I was actually in the field or the industry, or I was building connection without even realizing it. Where this thing really started to come about was my struggles in dating and relationships. I was in many unhealthy relationships. And over time, there became an awareness to it. And a lot of us, although we can have an awareness, it's easy to place, the blame on the other person. But there was an accountability for me. And what am I doing? What am I not doing? And so it had nothing to do with my partners. And it led me into a long journey into transformation, into personal growth, into connection with self, relationship to self, having a conscious, healthy relationship, accepting self, aligning fully with self. And to me, connection is the root of it all. Connection begins within and travels outward. When you have it with yourself, you don't need it. You don't need to be accepted externally. You have it. And so it changes. It literally is like the most liberating thing in the world once you have that. And so my curiosity, my fascination with connection led me to starting the XXO podcast and also launching an offline matchmaking service at the time.
Okay.
Right. And getting away from the dating apps and the funny thing about that, not funny, but funny, is it launched in January of 2020, where a month or later, the world shuts down and people can't meet in person. And it kind of interrupted what I was trying to do, which then led to a whole nother thing, which ultimately became the XXO platform today. So it's amazing how these things happen. It's always, again, looking back, it's easy to connect the dots, as I believe Steve Jobs would always say. But in the moment, we have no idea what we're doing.
Yeah, that's so true, and I really resonate with that a lot as well. Like for example, if you told me, because I was living in Amsterdam, moved back to Dubai, and decided to launch my podcast, and I just wanted to launch a podcast. I would, if you asked me, here we are, almost, wow, yeah, wow, in a few days it'll be exactly 2 years since I launched the podcast. That I would not only still be doing it, that I would have had the conversations I've had, met the people I had. I would have told you, you're crazy. But looking, like you said, hindsight is always 2020. And one thing that you said an interesting point, because I think I've been a victim of this. Anyone who has dated anyone has been a victim of this, which is it's very easy to blame the other person, but not necessarily just because it's dating. In life, it's very easy to put the blame somewhere else instead of taking accountability that whether fairly or unfairly, you had some sort of hand to play in that situation. There's two sides to every story. So I guess what I wanted to ask you is, you said you were in a couple of unhealthy relationships. I guess when you had that, I guess that switch and you started becoming aware and noticing that pattern, what did you find to be, I guess, what was the core issue that was, I guess, preventing you from either connecting with your partner or the other person or with yourself? What was that?
It was codependency at the time.
Okay.
Yeah,
Codependency.
it was completely putting all of myself into a relationship, giving all of me. And when we do that, we lose all of ourselves. We lose ourselves in the relationship. And I think so many times that we think um, that we are, that whole thing together. We need to be all and everything. And what happens is we lose the relationship with self. And so in any healthy relationship, there's three relationships. I call it having a threesome, but it's continuing the relationship with yourself first and foremost. And especially when you go into another relationship, it's still continuing personal growth, getting to know yourself, the journey on your own, your partner on your own, and then coming together. But I didn't understand that at the time. I didn't know that at the time. And so it was a lack of worth.
A lack
And
of
what
worth.
happens is you start to resent your partner for certain things. And really, at the end of the day, you're really just resenting yourself. It has nothing to do with your partner. And you're going to repeat the process and the cycle over and over and over. It's not going to change until you do the inner work and you go inside. And that's the biggest reason for XXO today is dating relationships, no matter if you're trying to date or you're in a relationship, is that first and foremost is wellness, your mental and emotional well-being, your personal growth journey. And your mental health. That's not the priority today. It's to like get into a relationship. And that's the biggest reason why XXO was created also, is because of the lack of that with dating apps. It has and we're getting this the wrong way. We're not even getting to the point of what actually counts. It's great. Let's get into a relationship. Let's get into a relationship with ourselves first. Let's start here. And then let's attract the same partner who values the same types of things, who lives the same lifestyle. And let's have a healthy, conscious relationship together.
Yeah. I think, like when listening to you and I'm reflecting on like even the experiences I've had, I had something similar to you in the sense that worth was something that I struggled with for a long time. I always felt that I wasn't enough, whether no matter what I did. And it was only, I guess, even though I started tackling that issue, it's not something that changes overnight. That connection with self, in quotation mark, doesn't come in a week or 2 weeks. It's an ongoing process that you're always going to be doing, no matter what. But I think from if I get what you're trying to say is laying a foundation, kind of getting an understanding of who you are, because there's always going to be improvements, but there's getting to a place where you kind of understand yourself. You're aware of your flaws. You're aware of your strengths as well, and you're aware of how much are willing to give in a relationship. What are the kind of type of person you want in a relationship, and so on. Do you think? Because I agree with you that all connection does start within, but you can also have a connection with someone with even if like I can have me and you could have a great connection here right now, and maybe
Yeah.
I'm a person that I personally I don't have that strong connection with myself. So I do understand what you're saying, but let me just play devil's advocate. Does it have to come first, or can you work on it while you are with someone?
It's not an or, it's an and, if that makes sense. It's
Yeah,
not like this or this, it's an and. But again, if it's not an or, it doesn't mean that it has to all come from me or all from you. It has to be and. It's like you have to continue doing the inner work, and you have to know when you can actually go out and apply it also. In personal growth and personal development, people can get so caught up in the work itself, they never actually apply it. And so part of the healing also comes from entering into a relationship where you start to recognize those things, how far you've come, what you're doing, but it's going to be a much healthier relationship. But I mean, but the end is you have to start with yourself. You have to
yeah,
start the work.
yeah. It does. Yeah, you yourself is a person in this relationship.
You
It's you.
you are the
Yeah,
relationship. You are the relationship.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. So that leads me like if I and we talked about blame, which is one reason why maybe we don't do that work on ourselves. Why is that? Do you think? Why it's funny how if that is the most important place to start from me first, why does that typically be the thing that most people neglect? Like that's the last thing I think about. It's after I've done all these mistakes, exhausted all these options, and now it's time to come back to okay, maybe it's time to like work with myself.
You know why? Because it fucking sucks. The healing process of picture a surgeon. A surgeon makes an incision and goes inward. When you make that incision and you first start, it's going to hurt. It's going to bring out a ton of things, all these emotions and energy and everything that's been living and stored in your body all these years. You have to face yourself. We don't want that. So we go to the distraction. It's easier to continue distraction and go on with life than to face yourself. And so that is why. The problem with that is by continuing with the distraction, it creates more loneliness and more isolation and more anxiety, depression, and everything else. But it's easier than temporarily having to go in and face yourself. We'd rather not face yourself for the to start with, the first couple months, couple years, and rather live a lifetime of the other side, which is unhealthy, because it's the familiar. It's what's known to us. It's what's safe to us. The unknown, unfamiliar, which is the present moment, we fear. It's not safe, even though it can be so healthy. We're humans. We continue to live in what's safe to us. That's how we're wired, and it requires unwiring and rewiring. But that's why we avoid it. We avoid ourselves.
Yeah. I think the analogy you used is perfect because you're right. The hardest thing is when you have to look yourself in the mirror and be like, ah, yeah, okay, like you fucked up, and like to look at it and see yourself like saying it back to you. You're right. It does hurt, and it's not, and you feel very vulnerable, and you feel emotional, and this, like you said, so many things come out of that. But that is like that's like the glass shattering. Finally,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
this has to break so we can rebuild this house. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Because we've been carrying living a certain way for so long, and like you correctly said, a lot of us would rather just distract ourselves because it's I can deal with that pain ease like more readily than having to deal with like the true pain like I feel inside myself. I guess
Well,
the next.
well, well,
Yeah, go ahead, please.
the other reason, and it's kind of the same reason, is it's your personality. You've created this person, this personality that we live inside, and so we think this is what it is all about. This is who I am,
Yeah.
and it's we're all able to, but are you willing to go in and do it? And so we can literally leave that personality behind and create a new personality, but that again is the inner work. That's the unwiring, the rewiring. It's not comfortable,
No,
you know.
no, absolutely not, man. Absolutely not. And I think you said a key word there, which is to be willing to do it. Wanting is one thing, but willing is a totally different story.
Yeah.
Let's say I came to you, I'm like, Jason, okay, now I've understood that I need to connect with myself first. Okay. The next question that I would ask you if I ask him like, Jason, how do I know when I've connected to myself? When will I know? What would you say? What advice would you give for me to start looking out for certain signs maybe that show me that okay, now I feel like or I think I know that I have a good connection with myself?
Khalid, I don't like Khalid. Khalid's podcast sucks. Khalid, you're hearing all these voices
Mm,
and you just don't give a fuck. You've accepted yourself. You don't care about the judgment of others.
mm,
You don't care about the outer voices. You're now living your life. Once you've done that, again, that's the most liberating experience. Once you've accepted and wherever those voices are coming from, whatever those things that are calling, you're not living in the past. You're not living for yesterday, waiting for tomorrow, just existing today. You're choosing you. You chose yourself now.
yeah. I think that's I never thought of that, and I never knew what would the sign be, and I think you said it right. Is when can you hear those negative voices because those are never going away. It's just a part of life. They're always going to be there. But when can you get to a point that yeah, okay, that
You're
doesn't
not you're
bother?
not ju- you're not judging others. You're not judging yourself. You're free to be yourself. Imagine that now,
Yeah, and
right?
you're yeah, and you're right. That is a very liberating. I can imagine that's a very very liberating feeling.
Yeah.
I one thing I really liked about your content, Jason, that you post on LinkedIn is that it always has felt very authentic, but it also felt quite vulnerable as well. So the question I started asking myself, like as I was preparing, I'm like, authenticity is important, and especially nowadays, it's even more important than ever. That's why podcasts are so popular because there's a voice, an authentic voice that people are listening to, like our conversation, like this conversation, for example.
Yeah.
But then I start to think, is authenticity and vulnerability the same thing? Or do I need to be vulnerable to be authentic? Or do I need to be authentic to be vulnerable? Do you know what I mean? What are your thoughts? What would you say?
I would say there's a formula, and if you took a formula, intimacy times vulnerability equals connection. I'm like weirded out by being authentic, like having to tell people you're authentic. You don't have to tell anybody you're authentic. You don't have to know you're authentic. And so I don't think being authentic and being vulnerable are the same thing. I think vulnerable is having the ability to share your life without worrying about others' opinions and judgment. You can just open up. I put everything out online. I put out a snapshot of my bank account on one of the posts, talking about the real entrepreneurship, not the highlight reels. Let's talk about real entrepreneurship and the journey. And it wasn't a good picture of my bank account. It wasn't like, it was the opposite of it, but fuck it. Like it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
Um, and so I don't I don't think about being authentic or anything. I'm naturally vulnerable now. I share whatever. I just like to share. Because here's the thing. The way as humans, the way we connect to others, the way we resonate with others, the way we become relatable, the way we suddenly not feel alone is when somebody shares a story and opens up. And suddenly that's the connection for others. They all have their own stories, but everybody feels alone or feels shame or embarrassment on something. We're fucking humans. Like, let's open up and have a conversation. And these types of things that always allows others to open up, others to not feel so alone. So I'm weirded out by the word authentic. I don't, but I like the word vulnerable.
Yeah.
I just don't think of it like it's just part of what I do in my daily occurrence. I just let it out. Whatever feels, I just kind of let it out.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
and I get that. I understand. I understand where you're coming from in the sense that you don't see it as one thing or another. Authenticity is just you
You
being,
just you
you,
just are.
yeah,
You just
yeah,
are.
just being yourself, doing what you want to do. And I like that formula that you said: intimacy times, v- v- int-
Bull.
intimacy times vulnerability. Sorry, equals connection. I
You got
think
it. Yeah.
looking at it like that makes a lot of sense and is very relatable. I wasn't always the most vulnerable person. I think not. I don't. I think a lot of people don't start off that way, but it takes work and still things to unload and undo. But it's part of the journey, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day. Like you
That's what
said,
it's all about.
we're
Never
fucking
ends.
human.
Yes. Cheers to that.
Yeah, cheers to that, man. So I wanted to come on to the whole dating aspect of XXO. So what was interesting about you guys is nowadays, so when if you look at the history of dating apps, like Tinder popped up and it was about, wow, now there's a potential I could, the idea behind it initially, this is a hookup app. It just is, I find you attractive, you find me attractive. That's the basis of it. It creates an opportunity for that. So that's how it started. But then you saw as time went on, things like people, number one, on Tinder started writing a lot more like biographies and telling more about themselves or like what they want, what they're looking for. And then things like Bumble came out that took it to like another level. And what's interesting about you guys is there's none of that. It's not that aspect. The cool thing that I've noticed is if you're part of this community, or it kind of comes, if you're part of the XXO community, you have similar values. You're trying to do a similar thing in the sense that you care about, your mental health and emotional well-being, and and connection is something very important to you. So you do have, I guess, what's the word? Like a foundation or some core values that you might have with another person. But I wanted you to walk me through, how did you go about rethinking this whole dating model, and how do you guys, what's the process look like with you guys? How do you facilitate it?
I wanted to completely reinvent the current online dating model.
Okay.
To me, it's been the standard for the past 15, 20 years has been dating apps. Tinder, Hinge, Bumble, all, there's like 1,500 or something. I don't even know how many. There's like, another 1,000 coming out in the next couple of weeks, right? They're all the same. They're dating apps. They're profiles, swiping, matching, DMing. Some are getting away from the swiping, but they all function the same way. And they're built to me like a casino. They're an addiction. We get so caught up in the needing to be accepted and the validation and the artificial happiness, I call it. Again, we're missing the whole point of relationship to self, connection to self first, a healthy relationship to self, mental health. And so while you can use all those words as marketing and market your dating apps of we're for people who are into mental health and wellness and well-being and all that, that they're not doing anything about it. Our platform is the whole human connection experience without the swipe. First and foremost, it's not a dating app. There's no profile, swiping, matching, DMing. It's a personal growth, wellness, well-being platform. We have multiple daily live interactive video rooms where we're all in a room together. We have coaches, therapists, teachers all around the world who hold these rooms every single day, all day. We have former UFC, MMA world fighting champions talking or coaching on it's live coaching, direct coaching, transformation, mindset. We have self-love, self-worth coaches, sex, dating, relationship coaches, and therapists. We have energy healers. We have live yoga rooms, breathwork rooms, meditation rooms. I mean, it goes on and on and on. It's all back to connection to self, self-care, self-love. Everybody is in the rooms together, doing the inner work together, supporting each other, getting live coaching, working on themselves while being surrounded by others who are doing the same. It's never been done. So our focus is on the healthy relationship to self, removes the pressure of dating. But to me, there's nothing more attractive than being surrounded by others who are also doing the inner work. And so we've created our own model. To me, this is the future. This is the standard now. And so that's kind of what happens inside our platform. We're going to build a 24/7 live interactive video rooms. When our members come in, they have access to all of the rooms. It's about $15,000 of live interactive personal growth, coaching, and therapy they're getting every month inside our platform. And then they have access to everybody. They don't have to, there's no metrics or likes or followers. We have also an app where they can directly DM, video message, have a video conversation, not just in groups, but one-on-one as well. And so to me, this is the new model. It's not a dating app. It's a connection platform.
I see. That's really interesting because like you said, you've reframed the kind of concept of it. Like a dating app, just that name, you already have a certain kind of connotation going in. You already have a certain type of expectation. If I've understood correctly from you, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is
Yeah.
the main focus of your platform is not necessarily relationships and dating. Like, oh, I'm gonna join XXO, so like I would join Tinder for some reason. It's not that. It's about
You
it's a byproduct of being part of this, a potential byproduct of being part of this community and addressing the key problem, which which seems to trouble a lot of people, which is connection with self.
if somebody who wants to come in just as like has they're in the mindset of, just the swiping, just this, they'd be bored as fuck coming in here if they don't value these things, which is what we want. They're not going to come in because having real conversations, opening up, being intimate, being vulnerable, it's not, it doesn't turn them on. That's okay. And that's what really separates us is we create true healthy conscious. We provide transformation. At the end of the day, we're not recorded content. We're live connection. We don't put out information. We have live transformation. We have story after story of transformation of self first. And when you do that, you automatically attract others who are in healthy places. And you can, doesn't mean every relationship is going to work,
Yeah, of
but
course.
still you're attracting the people who also are vibrating that high frequency as you are, the people that you'd like to attract. And regardless of the relationship, you're being supported by the most amazing humans in the world. They're all in there. So that's what we do.
Yeah, no, and I respect that and I appreciate that. I think it's a fresh take on this whole concept, and I like what you said that a lot of us spend so much time wanting to be in a relationship that we treat it kind of like a job without, taking a step back and doing
Yeah.
all the work that you guys can't, like what you offer on your platform, to so that when that relationship does come, and it will come, who knows when, but it will come, you are in the best position for it to be successful.
That's it. We build community. Like we are community is what we do. And yeah.
Yeah. No,
We're shaking it up. We're shaking it up.
yeah,
Doing it our way.
yeah, yeah. As you should, man. I like that. I like
Yeah.
that. And also you talked about one clear thing that came across that you guys push hard is connection over convenience, and it kind of
Yes.
touches on what we were talking about like earlier, but the apps and stuff, how it's it's super convenient. I just do this, and then I don't even look. I just numbers come up. You decide. You know what I mean? It's just how it's
Yeah.
been. I speak from experience. I've done it too. So I guess because can I think I like the way you guys said it. It's connection over convenience because connection also typically takes time to build a strong connection, whether it's with another person or with yourself. It does take time. So walk us through what was the motivation behind focusing on the connection when historically it's just been convenience, convenience, convenience.
Convenience is amazing for so many things. You know, I could list a ton of names we think of when we think of convenience, and it's like that's the world we live in, and they're great. The dating apps are built out of convenience, but relationships are not built out of convenience. They're built on connection. And that was one of the things I realized, a few years ago in when I was dating a lot was seeing what was going on and just understanding the behavior. And people would date out of convenience. It would just everything was very convenient, but there was no connection. And it's connection over convenience. It's what do you look are you what are you looking for? Are you truly looking for a true conscious, healthy relationship with somebody? Or are you just looking for something that is convenient? There's not a wrong answer if that's what it is. But the ones who really do want something much deeper, it's very frustrating for them to be surrounded by others who want something very convenient. And so, you know, these things we talk about of personal growth, personal development, it's not it's not necessarily convenient. It's not an overnight. It can begin overnight, but it happens over time and it's a lifetime journey. It's not a checklist of I
Yeah,
did this and then I have it. And so that's what we're all about is connection to self, connection to each other. It's not going to happen overnight and it's not out of convenience. We make it as convenient as we can
yeah,
for our members,
yeah.
but the overall no, it's all about connection. Just like any other relationship, business relationship, you name it, it's always connection first before the convenience.
Absolutely, man. It's
Yeah.
and I like how
People can see through that shit,
yeah, they can.
right?
I think us as people have a very good bullshit radar that it's just an innate thing that we have. Like he's probably talking some shit. Um,
But we're also wired. We want it fast. We want that instant gratification, that
exactly.
attention, right? And so that's where the convenience feels really good. And then we want more and more, and that's where we go down that addiction, that needing, chasing. But we never actually find it. And there's a reason why we're not finding it.
Yeah, that's true. And you're right. It does become. I like even my experience. It did feel like an addiction. Like every day, I'd be waiting. Like swipe blindly, whatever, and then you just like looking around, waiting, looking at your watch, just waiting for that match to come through, and then to
Yeah.
decide like. Am I attracted to her? Am I not attracted to her? Should I message? Should I not message? It's just a whole
And
thing.
and here and it, well, and here's the thing too: is inside a platform, you're not looking at profiles. You're interacting with people. You're seeing for the first time in a video room live with our groups where you can watch them, you can hear them, you can have a conversation with them. It's like taking technology of today to bring us back to connection of yesterday, if that makes any sense. It's we're bypassing these profiles. We're people.
Yeah.
And so it does create a different mentality when I can share a conversation with somebody in real time as opposed to getting caught up in profiles.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's actually such a great point because one of the notes I wrote down, like when I was looking at this, was it's kind of like what you guys are trying to do is just take it back to basics. Meet someone random at a coffee shop, at a bar, you have that conversation. I can't hide behind my perfect Tinder profile with the right pictures, with the right lighting, with the right messaging that I can take 10 years to like craft a message.
Yeah.
It's real, and I think you get a much better judgment or idea of this person because, like you said, it's live, so it's all real. It's happening in real time. I don't have time to put on an image of portray an image of someone I'm not. You're gonna get who I really
Yes.
am.
Yeah. That's the
Yeah.
beauty of it. We have a hard time being exposed for who we are, and at the same time, it's a beautiful thing to be exposed for who you are.
Yeah. There's always gonna be something, man. There's always gonna be something. But it's part of the game, This is why we do it.
Yeah.
This is what we have to do. Jason, I want to be conscious of our time, so I just have two more questions for you. These are questions that I ask all my guests. Number one, looking back either at your career or professionally or personally, if I ask you, what are you most proud of for yourself? What would you say?
Most proud of not giving in to my bullshit or anybody else's bullshit anymore. Of just I'm so locked in on what I'm doing, and nothing's gonna push me off course. That's what I'm really proud about.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I really like it. I really like that you said not anyone else's and not mine either. I think that's very, very important because then you can get to a point like, yeah, I don't care about anyone else, but I'll still believe my own bullshit. So if you've gone to that place, man, that's awesome. And I think shows a lot of growth and a lot of self-awareness as well. And for my last question, Jason, what is a message that you'd like everyone to take home with them today?
Just being able to, I'll say date yourself right now. The message is to spend time with yourself, to get to know yourself. The message I want is for everybody to have that liberating experience, to live their life, not somebody else's, and to love their life. And that we all can do that. It starts, it doesn't happen like that, but we all can go there, and we can come up with all the excuses we want. But there's somebody else out there who has the same excuses, or they've gone through the same thing you have, and they've chosen to make it happen. And so we all can make it happen. And so I just want to see people having these healthy relationships with themselves, with others.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing, man. I really like what you said. Date yourself first. Spend some time with yourself. Understand who you are, and like you said, it's something that everyone must remember. It's not an overnight fix. This is a lifelong thing that you're always, the connection, for example, I had with myself at 27 is completely different to where I am now at like 31. So it's different, and it's gonna be different. You're gonna learn new things, but this is what it's all about. And there's someone out there who's doing exactly the same thing as you, who's got the same excuses, whatever. So
Yeah.
also be humble in the sense that you're not everyone in the world is going through this at different levels, on different journeys, and at different paces. So I really appreciate that, man. I want to say, Jason, thank you so much for coming on the show today, man. This has been a really fun conversation. I love this topic, and it was really interesting getting your perspective, some new ideas that I didn't even consider. So I really appreciate that. Where can people find you if they want to work with you, connect with you? Let us know.
XXOconnect.com. And I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on all the platforms, but LinkedIn probably the most right now.
LinkedIn the most.
Yep.
Awesome. So guys, you heard it here, xxoconnect.com and LinkedIn if you want to reach out to Jason. Jason, once again, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. It's been a pleasure.
Appreciate you having me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Guys, to everyone listening, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And as always, hope it helps. Peace.